You get big ears.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Gila National Forest. I already packed up my tent this morning. I have water boiling in my electric kettle to make some coffee, and I do not want to leave this beautiful campsite. Absolutely stunning location.
Yep. This is the kind of free campsite you can get in New Mexico and Arizona. You wake up, you see rabbits, elk, deer, and you get the whole place to yourself, surrounded with mountains. Now that's what I call boondocking heaven.
Now, boondocking in English means camping off grid without access to utilities such as water, sewer, and electricity.
Voilà. And now we got the sunrise over the mountains of Reserve, New Mexico, and we're headed to the Arizona border, and I got a little surprise for you. That's assuming we can make it there that far today. It'll be as far west as we go before starting to make our way back towards Albuquerque, Santa Fe. All right, well, sun is about to rise. Let's get going.
All right, guys, welcome to the beautiful Heifer Basin Scenic Viewpoint. What a beautiful place. Absolutely spectacular sunrise over the mountains of New Mexico and Arizona. Now, this is called Heifer Basin, so I'm assuming they had a lot of young cows down there back in the day. I'm not seeing any young cows, but I did see a beautiful gray fox just before stopping the car here at the viewpoint. All right, guys, we are at the beautiful small town of Luna, New Mexico. Now, it's named Luna apparently because there was a big family that owned a lot of land in this area, and they had the last name Luna, so that's how the town got its name. One of the things that really strikes me here in Luna is how quiet and peaceful it is, and also the amount of elk that you see here. I mean, we're talking about herds of elk just grazing in people's yards. So it was very surprising to see that. Now it is early in the morning, but I counted at least 40 elk just grazing in people's yards. So I thought it was really neat to watch. And this is basically the last town or settlement here in New Mexico before you cross into Arizona. So we're approaching the state line, and I got a little surprise for you. Let's keep trucking. All right, guys, we finally made it to the New Mexico Arizona state line. Now, it's probably been called this by other people, but I'd like to think I'm the first one who calls it this. But I'm going to call it the New Mexico Arizona. That's what I would call it. Yeah, so basically, guys, we are entering the Grand Canyon State, and that just puts a smile on my face just looking at the Arizona sign. And it's interesting because the sun just rose behind the mountains today. It looks exactly like what you're seeing on the Arizona flag. And what a beautiful entrance into Arizona. I mean, absolutely stunning to be here in Apache Sitgreaves National Forest. A lot of vegetation, a lot more than I anticipated, so it's very forested. And we're going to take this little picture of Azul entering the Grand Canyon State, the great state of Arizona. All right, guys. Now I did drive past this one. Then I told myself, man, I've got to turn around and stop and check this out We are at the Nelson Reservoir, very close to the town of Eager, Arizona. I mean, what a beautiful reservoir or lake. Absolutely stunning. It's early in the morning. There's no one here. Barely any cars on US 180. And I have this beautiful view, drinking my coffee all to myself. Absolutely stunning. All right, I was just driving and I saw this old mission style, Pueblo style church, and I told myself I had to stop. Old San Miguel Mission. What a beautiful Pueblo structure. Parish established 1615. All right, well, let's tell you a little history about the place. Now, this one was actually established after an expedition led by Don Juan de Oñate, and that was actually in 1598, so it's about a good 15, 20 years before this was completely built. When they got here, they needed help, so they were really in trouble. And I think the local tribes, which is the Tepana Pueblo people, helped them. And the word in Spanish for help is socorro. So that's why this area is named, or the town is named Socorro, New Mexico. I guess they built this in what, 1615, and then dedicated it. Now, one of the main things that you notice here, it's the Pueblo style. Um, and from what I understand, it can hold a lot of people in there. So it's bigger than it looks on the outside, and they added some segments to it. I think it was abandoned in the 1680s when you had the big Pueblo revolt. So people were, I think, pushed out of Socorro, out of this area. But then later, I think they came back and made additions to it, and it's what it looks like now. And I think, if I remember correctly, this is in the National Register of Historic Places, and it's on a National Scenic Byway. So this is the Socorro Historical District Scenic Byway, and it's also along another historic road, and that is the Camino Real de Tierra Adentro. I don't speak Spanish, so I hope I didn't butcher that, but basically means the royal way of the interior lands. Now, interior lands of Mexico, when Mexico controlled the area, and that road starts in Mexico City and comes up all the way to Santa Fe. And obviously, it was dotted with missions because that's how they secured the road. And it's my understanding there are other Camino Reals. I know that I saw one when I was in Texas, so I think there are about 4 branches to it, if I understand correctly. But yeah, this is an absolutely beautiful area to visit, to see all the old mission architecture from the time period. Okay, guys, just got to Tome or Tome, New Mexico. This also happens to be along the Camino Real de Tierra Adentro. So we're still on the historical byway, and what a beautiful Pueblo church. I mean, just absolutely beautiful. If I look at the wall that's built around it, look at that. So that means Our Lady of the Immaculate Conception of Tome, and it's on El Camino Real, and it's got its own symbol, obviously, because it's a National Scenic Historical Byway. And look at the beautiful architecture. It's just absolutely beautiful. The plants, um, just beautiful architecture. Let's walk up close a little bit, and okay, so they've got some really neat little structures built around the church. I think they were probably added later. It's a little windy today. my guess is the door is probably closed. It seems that a lot of these missions that we've gone to were closed. I mean, look at this. Beautiful, beautiful setting. Yep, let's keep trucking. Okay, we finally made it to Albuquerque, New Mexico. We're in front of the football stadium of the University of New Mexico here in Albuquerque. Now, their mascot is the Lobo, which in Spanish means wolf, I would think. So the wolves, I guess. Let's walk up here and see. Looks like the gate is closed. Seems that a lot of things are locked today. So yeah, this is the University of New Mexico. So we're a few blocks away from Route 66. So this is the football stadium. Yeah, everything's locked up. The actual campus of the university is a few blocks north of here, and it's on Route 66. And that's why you saw the 66 sign on the big sign here for the stadium, because we're not far from Route 66. And one of my favorite authors, a French author named Luc Lizio, came to the University of New Mexico on multiple occasions, I think, as a professor, but he's a very Nobel Prize winner author, very good one if you can check him out. Now, Albuquerque, or Duke City, is known for Route 66. It's known for a lot of other things, but also this area is very famous for Sandia Peak, or the Sandia Crest, which is the mountain range just a little east of town. So it's on my bucket list. So I think that's the next thing we're gonna check out, since the focus today is not really doing Route 66 or Albuquerque, but let's head up to Sandia Peak. All right, guys, I made it to Sandia Crest, or Sandia Peak. We're on trail number 130, and the views here are just absolutely stunning. Absolutely stunning. They're a few thousand feet above the desert floor, so you see the city of Albuquerque, and you see pretty much 360 around the area. You see all the mountain ranges in the area. Now, the Sandia Crest Road that brings you up here to the summit is an extension to the Turquoise Trail. Now, the Turquoise Trail is basically New Mexico State Road 14. That's an old historical Native American route that was used for the trade of turquoise. It's a national scenic byway. It's been highly recommended, and it does not disappoint, because right now I'm here on Sandia Peak, and the views are just absolutely stunning. So let's get back on the Turquoise Trail, or New Mexico 14, and let's check out some of the old historical mining villages in the area. Let's go. Okay, so we are on the Turquoise Trail in Santa Fe area, but it's outside of Santa Fe, about an hour. We're in a town called Madrid, and it's on the Turquoise Trail. And you know, obviously, you're gonna see a lot of turquoise-colored houses, but there are three towns. There's Golden, there's Madrid, there's Cerrillos, and these three towns are known to be very artsy towns. They're old mining towns, if I understand correctly. They were on the old Pueblo Turquoise Trail, and they attracted a lot of artists, kind of like Santa Fe did. But these are small villages, so they have a very quirky, neat look to them. Okay, so you can kind of see how the buildings are, and it's very colorful. Look at the shoes up there, man. Oh, okay. So there's a lot of art. Okay, it's the old mine shaft because it used to be a mine. Yeah. So this would be a good picture to take. There it is. There we go. Madrid Railroad. Oh no, Rail Yard. Okay, so what you do have is a lot of turquoise-colored buildings and a lot of art on all the buildings. So very artsy, kind of a neat one, you know. It's a neat little town with neat little buildings. Some of them look like they need some TLC. Now you get your mariachi over there, your metal mariachi. Alright, so this is the small town. Oh, look at the old car. This is the small town of Madrid. And we're not in Spain, we are in the great state of New Mexico. But this is supposed to be a really neat drive going through all the small villages. And you got a lot of turquoise colored houses like this one right here on the left. Wow, look at that. Wow, beautiful buildings. And look at this beautiful car. Wow. Classic. Gypsy Jim. All right, well, this is the end of the small village of Madrid. So that was your little tour.
Yo voy a cantar esta canción para mi gente con una pasión tan fuerte. Ay, 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 ahora sigo cantando y sigo gozando. Yo sigo cantando y sigo gozando.
All right, our next stop on the Turquoise Trail is the small town or small village of Los Cerrillos, which literally means the matches or small sticks you make a fire with. That's what that word means. Very neat buildings here, but there's really one that caught my attention, and it's the Los Cerrillos Petting Zoo. And this was a really neat experience because you know, I pull in and I'm parked in the parking lot. I'm about to get out of the car, and I'm watching the owners, a couple, taking care of the animals, and they're singing while they're feeding the animals. It was just beautiful, and it reminded me of the very famous scene in a very famous French movie called Jean de Florette. Now, in the movie, the main character, Jean de Florette, you know, inherits land, and he goes in, and there's this beautiful canyon. And at the bottom of the canyon, there's a well and a grotto. So that's the first time he goes down there, and he finds this old Italian couple singing those beautiful Italian songs. I would say it's one of the most beautiful scenes in French cinema. So if you get a chance to watch the movie and pay attention to that scene, that's exactly what I saw this morning here in Los Cerrillos. So it was a very special moment. All right, guys, let's keep rolling.
Ay, 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 ahora sigo cantando y sigo gozando. Yo sigo cantando y sigo gozando.
All right, guys, I'm still on the historic ancestral Pueblo turquoise trail, and this is I would say a bucket list item, bucket list stop. You definitely want to stop here. This is the Buck Studio Oregon in the Garden art installation. I mean, just a beautiful spot with the beautiful color of the rock. You have all these beautiful meadow flowers, as you can see here. You have a lot of horse statues. They're massive. They're a good, I don't know, 15 feet. And you have all the different colored rocks and the different desert floor plants. Beautiful. All right, guys, we finally made it to Santa Fe, New Mexico. We're from the Cathedral Basilica of St. Francis of Assisi, and let me tell you, this is absolutely beautiful architecture. This is like architectural eye candy. Outstanding buildings and architecture. I mean, look at this. So we're in the historic district of Santa Fe. So, and we're really close to the old plaza. And the architecture here is just amazing. Look at that. La Fonda parking. That's a parking deck. Can you believe it? Unbelievable. And this main street goes down like this, and all the buildings on each side are like this. All of Santa Fe is built like this. So you drive for about an hour, and that's all you see is Pueblo architecture. Wow. So this road, when you drive it, it's really hard to focus because the architecture is so beautiful on both sides. So that's just amazing. So you have a lot of Pueblo and Spanish influence here. And they have the main town square down there. And this street kind of comes up a little bit, and the top of it is obviously the cathedral. This is just neat. Let me show you something that I just noticed I thought was interesting. So there's a lady right here, and she's painting the columns right now. So she's put in some Puebloan symbols in here, and she's painting them right now. Look at that. There she is. So she's in the midst of painting, I think, the saint patron of the city. Now this is the Museum of Contemporary Arts. And usually I don't like the painting of columns in original buildings like this, but because I like simple things that are a little more authentic. But I must admit, she is doing an outstanding job. It looks amazing. All right, let's go check out the cathedral. Wow, that's a beautiful basilica on the inside. Now, from what I understand, initially the church that was built here was in the Spanish colonial style, and it was called La Parroquia, and it had deep Moorish Andalusian influences. Then later on, it was torn down and rebuilt in a more Romanesque French style. But you can still see that some of the floor plan has been affected by the old Spanish colonial mission Moorish style. But a beautiful, beautiful basilica. All right, guys, let's check out some of the historic district here around the Central Plaza area. Beautiful architecture everywhere you go. So I'll tell you what, let's tell you a little history of Santa Fe. It's pretty fascinating. So it was founded in 1610, and then later it became the capital of New Mexico. Now, before that, the native inhabitants were called the Tiwa Pueblo. So they were there for a long time. And then the Spanish arrived through the Coronado expedition. Now, if you remember, we talked about the Coronado expedition and Estevanico the Moor, I believe in episode 2 or 3. So basically, you had the whole Cabeza de Vaca shipwreck. You had Estevanico and 3 other Spaniards who were lost in the American Southwest for 7 or 8 years, and they end up making it to Mexico. And Estevanico ends up coming back here with the Coronado expedition. So long story, but the original name of the town has kind of a connection to the cathedral, which is named after St. Francis of Assisi. Well, the original name of the town, and I don't speak Spanish, so I hope I don't butcher this too bad, but I'll try. La Villa Real de la Santa Fe de San Francisco de Asís. I probably butchered it, but anyway, what that means is Royal Town of the Holy Faith of Saint Francis of Assisi, and that's why the cathedral basilica is named after him. That obviously became a big center for New Mexico. This was under Spanish rule. Now, in 1680, you had the big Pueblo Revolt, so a lot of the Spaniards here were expelled, but then they came back 12 years later, and I think there was some kind of agreement between them and the native inhabitants here, and the tradition from that is the Santa Fe Fiesta, which kind of celebrates basically the peace. Now later on, when Mexico became independent, now obviously Santa Fe became part of Mexico, and then later on you had the Mexican-American War, so later it becomes part of the United States. Well, it becomes a part of the United States as a territory, then as a state. So when you walk around Santa Fe, you really notice the blend of the Native American, the Spanish, the Mexican, and the American influences. You really see them. You do see a lot of adobe buildings. And I think from what I understand, in the 1950s, Santa Fe passed an ordinance where basically you couldn't build something other than in the Pueblo style. And I think that's one of the best things they could have done, because it's really made a big difference. I mean, look at this architecture. I mean, it's just beautiful everywhere. You drive around Santa Fe for an hour or two, and this is what you see. Just beautiful buildings everywhere. I mean, look at this one. Wow. All right, guys, we're in the Santa Fe Plaza. Beautiful place with a lot of street musicians and all that. So it's a really good atmosphere. But I couldn't help but notice that this little statue here has been boarded up, and there's a sign here put by the Santa Fe Commission. And I think there's a statue in there that's been boarded up. So there seems to be some kind of disagreement about the statue. And now this has been a controversial kind of topic in the last few months, maybe last few years. So yeah, that's an interesting situation here. So, and it looks like they're trying to figure out a solution to the disagreements they have about some of these statues. Yeah, and man, I can't help but listen to this guy who's singing really loud a cappella across the square. It's really loud, so.
I can freestyle like I wish they were recording this, cause it's true and from the heart. So
Yeah, well, dude, I promise you, it is recorded, and you're quite a singer, that's for sure. But anyway. This, I think, kind of springs from maybe in a lot of maybe towns you have maybe one side of the story that's told through the statues and the monuments, and maybe not the other side. And from my perspective, I think it's better to look at this as a half full glass versus a half empty glass, and instead of focusing on emptying that glass and throwing it away, maybe maybe the focus should be adding the other half of the glass. So maybe instead of taking down statues, maybe it would be better building other statues that also tell the other side of the story. And I hope my full glass, half glass, empty glass analogy kind of makes sense, or throwing the glass away kind of makes sense. But anyway, I mean, I think if you look at a town like Santa Fe that's got so many people come through, it only makes sense to have all those cultures represented, and none of them should be misrepresented or not represented enough. So I think that's something to keep in mind, that I think a town should be proud of its history. One of the things you notice also here in Santa Fe is there are a lot of Native American artisans who make all kinds of things, especially turquoise jewelry. Now remember, we're on the Turquoise Trail, so we're definitely going to check it out. And this jewelry here really caught my eye because it was made by a Native American lady from, I think, the Santo Domingo Pueblo, and it was really, really neat. So obviously, I had to call a few family members and send them some pictures and buy some of these. But it's really always a good thing to support native-held businesses in a lot of the pueblos or the reservations that I visit, which I usually tend to do. And the idea is that by doing so, you support those local communities and encourage those artisans to keep making more beautiful pieces of art. I mean, this is what these are. These are pieces of art. Well, I'm so glad I got in the car because it just started raining. Now look at these beautiful buildings. We're driving here in downtown Santa Fe, and one of the things that really surprises me here is, for as beautiful as all the buildings are, Santa Fe is home to the ugliest state capitol in the United States. Well, excuse me, second ugliest state capitol building after the one in North Dakota. So it's really strange to have all this beautiful architecture and then to have an ugly state capitol building like the one they have here. This is the second oldest town in the United States after St. Augustine, Florida, and it's the only one that's a state capitol. So, and the only redeeming quality of the state capitol building in Santa Fe, New Mexico, is the prickly pear cactus that's planted right in front of it. Because for the rest, it's in stark contrast to the beauty of the Pueblo architecture you see everywhere around town. Alright guys, let's check out Santa Fe from above. Alright guys, just spent the last 30-45 minutes kind of exploring here in the Santa Fe National Forest on the main road. Some beautiful overlooks where you can see all the Santa Fe metro area. Absolutely spectacular views, and it's a lot cooler than down in Santa Fe. While I was driving, I stumbled upon this beautiful campsite. You just have to walk about 50 to 100 yards and you set up your tent, and it's next to a small creek or river, and it's called Big Tesuque is what I'm assuming it's called, but I've decided I think I'm just gonna camp here tonight. It's getting a little bit late, I'm super tired, so I think we're just gonna stay put and enjoy the beautiful views of the Santa Fe National Forest. Alright guys, you take care, I'll see you in the next one.